What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the CrazyFaceUNO Podcast, where everyone has a story and everyone's story matters. It has been a while, but I am your host, Shane McNeeley, and I am excited to be here talking with you today. I'm doing this by myself today, so no guest. I wanted to just put out a little teaser for next week, next Tuesday, so the first Tuesday in March. We're going to release, it's an old recorded podcast that hasn't been released yet. It's a gal that I was very excited to have on the podcast and have the opportunity to talk with. And so I'm excited. I'm just going to tease that a little bit. Man, I have been, in my previous podcast, I kind of talked about, man, I've been traveling, been all over the place, been dealing with illness, sickness. But hey, I feel pretty good nowadays. I've been working at getting my diet and health back under control since moving to Florida. It has taken its toll. I maybe reluctantly say I'm an emotional eater, so I like to eat a lot. I always just like to eat in general. So food is something that is exciting and fun for me, and doesn't always agree with my body and activity levels. So I've put on a few pounds in the last several months, but working on getting that under control. Been back to the gym. I am super sore. Holy crap. I had a initial consult, like intro to like personal trainer at my gym, and man, I almost threw up. So surprise. That sucked. I didn't, just those fun little dry heaves at the end, but man, it wasn't even that long, less than a half hour workout. It's not that I hadn't been doing things, but shoot, I am old and out of shape, and I'm working at changing that. Obviously, I can't change the old part, but I can change a few other things. What I do, my consistency, determination, discipline in going to the gym and working out, and spending some time. It's weird now that I haven't been coaching for now officially for a year. It is strange, I guess, in some ways. Like, that was always my physical activity. Being a wrestling coach, you got to dive in and be a part of, your practices and your conditioning, and I tried to carry myself with integrity, and if I was going to ask my athletes to eat clean and healthy, then I was going to do the same. And so it's just I took this winter off, essentially. I've been dealing with a few different things. I've got this like pain in the outside of my knees. It comes and goes, but when I was jogging, I started jogging several months ago, and man, just on the outside of my knees, I believe it's potentially called runner's knee. It's when your IT band gets really tight and pulls against the ligaments in in your knee, something along those lines. Give or take a few inaccuracies there. You can look it up yourself. Or if you know anything about it, shoot me a message or comment on our social media, or direct message, email, text, call, whatever. And let me know if you've got any solutions or ideas on how to help with that issue. So it's been a journey. It's been fun, but I am sore. My abs are killing me. My legs, I can barely walk the last couple of days. That sucks. Just feeling those initial pains and gains, I guess, no pain, no gain. But overall doing well. Still kicking it in South Florida, Coconut Creek, Florida. So, just doing our thing. My wife and I feel like because of all the like weirdness in the beginning of the year 2020, just, traveling and illness and, being home and back in Indiana and helping with family, being away from my wife for almost 2 weeks was a lot. So it's just, we're doing great, but I feel like we are still working on getting into like some sort of a routine, or consistency. It's interesting, I think moving especially provides you with a chance to reset, to get out of a slump, get out of, the norm. It's change. And man, we crave consistency, but I think there's so much growth and change. And so I say this as in like we're trying to get into a routine is in, I don't know, it's normalizing our life here and finding our place, finding who we are, in a new location. You set yourself up, living in Minnesota. It had been 6 years. I lived there as long as I lived anywhere. And it really became home for me. And, you set your life up. You have friends. You have people that you hang out with. You have, man, I haven't seen that person in a while. I'm going to reach out to them and then we're going to hang out. And you kind of go through these consistencies, these routines, these things that you do, you geared towards me specifically. Like I love sports. So, wrestling, football, MMA, those things. So, kind of rally behind those things with your friends and with people that you, spend time with and care about the same things. And then when you move and you don't have those connections and those people, you're, at least for myself, I'm continually looking for those, I don't know, those moments, those times. And, some of it's putting yourself out there and just doing it. And then some of it's just, finding those people. But, man, to speak on putting yourself out there, I have been talking about it on the podcast for a long time. If you've been following CrazyFaceUNO about, creating videos and more videos. And I've done that a little bit, incorporating other people's videos into, or people making short little videos and sending them. I would love to continue that. So if you are interested, do it. Shoot me a video. You can even just do audio. If you want to do audio, we'll play it on air, or we'll do something with it and, get your story out there. Again, CrazyFaceUNO, I truly believe everybody has a story, and every story, everybody's story matters. And, so, just trying to figure out how best to tell people's stories and to make it different and unique. The podcast is obviously a long form, and I think that structure is going to stay, but I've been really struggling with putting myself out there as in going anywhere outside of the apartment to essentially ask people questions. What do I want to know? What do I want to ask people? What is interesting to the viewer? What's interesting to people? What's a good question? What's a question that's going to provoke a story, a thought, something to tell. And I don't know, it's scary to be vulnerable. And even though like I don't have any value in, like my value isn't in somebody saying no, they're not going to answer my question, but yet I don't know any other way. I'm scared to put myself out there, to get myself out into the streets and asking questions. And knowing, like, I know all the right answers. There's nothing you're going to say or somebody else is going to say that I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, but I'm super intimidated by doing that. And I suppose that's why not a lot of people do it, maybe. But, every day I feel like I'm slowly building my confidence. And one of these days I'm going to put myself out there and do that. If you're listening and you have questions that you find interesting, just about strangers, think about a time when you were I don't know, we're just the place you like to people watch the most. I mean, if you go to the airport, is great people watching, right? And the questions are always like, what are they doing? Where are they going? What's happening? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. The mall, people just walk around. There's people walking, just speed walking. There's people shopping. There's people just killing time. There's, kids hanging out with, teens hanging out with friends. There's a variety of things going on at a mall. In South Florida, there's beaches. And so that's probably where I'd head. But, so it's like people watching at the beach is awesome. It's amazing. It's great. And you see people coming and going and doing things, and they're from other countries, other states, other locations. They're on vacation. They live here. They, whatever. So think about those moments in the best people watching. What are the things you ask, like in your head? You're like, why are they wearing that? Or I don't know. Where did you come from? Where are you going? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Little humor there for you. But I would love your input. I'd love your thoughts of like deep thought-provoking questions, I guess, about that evoke a story that, maybe it's, the things that I always think of are, what's your favorite childhood memory? What's your favorite, when you think of childhood, what's the first thing that comes to mind? When you think of college, what's the first, story that comes to mind? Do you have a love story? Do you have an unsuccessful love story? Do you have, siblings? Do you have a fun story from growing up with your siblings? Or I don't know, there's just so many different ways and things. So it's just trying to figure out that structure and kind of write that in and do that. But I'd love your input. I love your thoughts and kind of what makes things interesting. Man, I have been on a YouTube kick. Maybe I'm late to the party because I know, I've always got sucked into those YouTube videos and different things. But I don't know, just following different channels that are things I've liked in the past, but I never really subscribed to. And then you get these unique, like, recommended, pages and stuff. A lot of it's along the lines of what I'm doing and trying to figure out how to, just kind of watching and exploring and building my base knowledge for a digital media type channel. And, through YouTube, through Facebook, through Instagram, through whatever. And, man, it's been fun. It's been interesting. It's really cool. So trying to use concepts, I guess, from some of those videos or those, I don't even know if concept's the right word. It's like, I feel like the thing that I noticed the most is a lot of the videos that are the most intriguing. It's the ones that take the people you're listening to out of their normal context in some ways, and I think the CrazyFaceUNO podcast is one way. It's long form. You don't hear a lot about people's stories, so it's unique. It kind of takes people out of this like normal environment that you would normally find people in, and it's different. And so it's kind of going down that road. And so even thinking about videos and making videos, it's kind of the same concept in a lot of ways. It's okay, what's unique? When you see people, there's tons of videos, right, of people doing pranks and doing funny things and whatever, trying to get reactions out of people. And at the base level, you see a lot of people just like it's things you don't normally see outside of the comfort zone. And so, similar ideas and thinking about, making short videos, telling people stories and asking questions about stories and kind of figuring out how you incorporate and pull people out of their normal environment and what makes it intriguing and unique and interesting. So that's something that, I guess I've been working on. It's both fun, leisure, and both like research. I've been trying to write more. I'd like to incorporate more things onto the blog on the website, crazyfaceuno.com. If you haven't been there, check it out. We've got mugs for sale. It helps fund our operations. Man, it helps in every step of the way. It's going to help make the quality better, make things better, because it helps kind of put a little money into the pocket and allows for better equipment, like a nice digital DSLR camera that I'm looking at buying, that will help with the video creations, 4K video quality, which would be awesome, plus just quality photography. And then let's see, what else is going on? Today is Friday, so you're listening and it is Friday the 28th of February. And it is chilly here in South Florida. The temperature was like 61 degrees when I woke up this morning around 8:30. And that's pretty chilly down here. I know some of you guys have snow and cold and whatnot, but I'm telling you, I got sweatpants, sweatshirt. Had my hood up most of the morning. You know, my toes are cold. I should probably put some socks on. Haven't done that. The fun times of working from home, right? You have no idea what I look like. I just described you. I have a sweatshirt on, sweatpants, no socks. My hair's a mess. I threw a hat on just to walk the dog. I mean, that's how crazy. But yeah, had my coffee. Obviously, getting the day going. But I'm excited for what's to come. Again, I have 3 podcasts that I've held on to and stored up, and I've got some more coming down the line. And I would just encourage you all to help make this next year. I know we're already a couple months in, but help make this next year with CrazyFaceUNO fun and exciting. It's as fun as your engagement. The more you engage, the more we can help. Find what you're most interested in, the parts. And I'd love to hear, if you have thoughts and ideas around our podcast, our videos, our questions, additions, subtractions, the things that you love the most and find the most interesting. Let us know, please. I'm dead serious. I really want to know. Shoot me a text if you got my number. Otherwise, you can find our work number, CrazyFaceUNO number, on all of our social media. So I would spout it off, but I'll probably get it wrong. So just go check that out. It goes directly to my accounts, so I'll be able to see that. And you can direct message us, email us. There's a way to contact us on the website, crazyfaceuno.com. And again, you can buy things from our store. Help us support the show and support what we're doing. I wanted to just hop on here and riff for a while, I guess. I don't even know. I didn't have a plan. I just literally kind of paused everything I was doing and was like, I'm going to go record and see what happens and see what takes place. I'm sitting in our spare bedroom, which is kind of my studio, in our apartment. It's in our 2-bedroom apartment in South Florida. I don't know. I wanted to talk, I guess, some about being scared and being vulnerable, with getting out. And man, I really struggle with that. I've been struggling with that. I kind of talked about that earlier. And the things that are on my mind is kind of what I've already talked about in some ways, but I've been thinking about I guess I've started writing on a few different topics, like who are you? And I guess that's one of the big ones, is who are you? and just thinking about the things that make you tick, right? Like all those questions that go into who are you? What do you like to do in your spare time? When you're at work, what motivates you? What excites you? What gets you out of bed in the morning? We've all had those moments when you've got something fun planned and you can't sleep in. And then it's inevitable that when you're working and you're like, oh, I got to go to work. It's, Monday night. I got to go to work tomorrow. So you go to bed, you wake up and you're like, man, I could hit the snooze button for hours, right? And it's like this avoidance of going to work, doing the inevitable. But there's other times when maybe you've had like a vacation planned or you're excited and you can't sleep in the morning. You're like ready to go. You're like gung ho. You're like awake. You're going for it. What are those things? What are those times? Is there a time that you're reminded of? I don't know. There's been so many, whether it's fishing with my grandpa or fishing with my friends or, those trips that you're getting ready to go on. You can't sleep. You're just ready to go. So many different trips. I feel like that those are always the classics. But yeah, I don't know. I think that speaks a lot to who you are, right? And who I am as an individual and what makes me tick. When you're alone, do you play music? Do you have background noise? Why? Is it a distraction? What is it helping you do? What do you think about when you're alone with yourself? When you're in a quiet and there's no sound going on? What do you think about? Where's your mind go? Have you ever let yourself do that? What comes about? That's a fascinating one to me. And I think some of it's because for me, personally, I don't really like silence too much. And so to force myself to sit in silence is hard, to put it lightly. I mean, I've thought about, doing one of those like deprivation tanks, those sensory deprivation tanks, the float tank type things. If you've ever listened to Joe Rogan, you've probably heard him talk about it. But yeah, I would love to do one of those and just kind of see where my mind goes and see how that operates and what goes on in my mind. Yeah, I don't know. Even, thinking about, when you're down, when you're sad, when you're not feeling well, what is it that keeps you going, right? I mean, what keeps you from just laying and maybe you don't. Maybe there are times, but I have a feeling that most people have had an experience where it's like, man, I can't not do it. Is it fear-based? I guess that's something I've been really, when I started asking some of these questions, I started thinking about the driving force behind it, right? I mentioned the things that get you excited, that keep you awake in the morning when you wake up. And I think those are positive, right? They're not like fear, they're excited based. But I feel like more often than not, it's the negative things, it's the fear-based things that we're afraid of the consequences. And I think a lot of our society is kind of set up that way. Our media for sure is just go to your Apple News or whatever your news source is and read the first 5 headlines, the top headlines there. And I guarantee you it's all something based on fear and being scared and warnings and, negativity. I can confidently say that because it's true. But yeah, I think that there's interesting factors, and I don't know that, it's not always a bad thing, right? That's like part of our innate self. It's something that keeps us safe. But I think that can take over. Sorry, I got the hiccups. I think that can take over sometimes and become the fixated thing, is like just fear. Man, I go to work because I'm afraid of not having a job, the consequences of not having a job, which are real, right? very real, of not having money coming in, especially if you have a family, if you've got responsibilities, outside of just yourself. I mean, very real. What gets you going, what motivates you, I don't know. I think that a lot of times, even, I guess some of this, like who you are and some of these questions kind of stem back to like, man, if I go ask somebody like, hey, can I ask you a question? Would you be willing to tell a story about, something that's happened in your life? And they're like, no. And man, you feel vulnerable, right? Like you just ask somebody something and they like shut you down. And it's this like fear of, it's not motivating to be like turned down. Yet like it's motivating to get the yes, right? So it's just like catch-22. It's a balance. And I think that, man, I'm big on life as a balance. You gotta have balance in life. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just interested in what makes you, and who you are. I find myself, and I know my wife's the same way, but like, man, we share so much of who we are with one another, and we take that, I don't know, like you integrate into one another, maybe that's the old biblical, like your flesh will become one or whatever. I know that's generally geared towards sex, and that's the whole concept usually when you're speaking biblically, but maybe it's different. Maybe it's, when you become connected, like you literally share parts of yourself, but that still makes up you and who you are. How much of that shines through when you're by yourself? Man, I just flashed in my head. I spent a couple of years ago, before my wife and I got married, it was the end of the school year. It was actually the like first weekend after the school year, and I went and spent I went and spent a week. I spent 7 days at the Superior Hiking Trail in northern Minnesota, just north of Duluth, about an hour and a half. And I spent, there was people that came in and went, but most of it was by myself. I'd hike by myself. I'd fix my food by myself. I would, exercise my brain by myself. I had my kayak out there. I portaged it in. I was about just over a mile, I believe, from where my car was parked. So I made a couple trips and pulled my kayak out there. And yeah, so I went fishing, didn't catch anything, never caught anything in that little lake. But, it's the sounds, the things you hear. I remember the beavers at night where they'd come up against the shore and slap their tails and make a lot of noise. And, it's nerve-wracking. It's vulnerable. The first night I journaled about this. I should have grabbed that journal. I didn't know that I was going to be talking about this. But the first night I even, I had this journaling experience where it was like, man, everything I hear is like brand new. It's like my ears are hearing it for the first time. And it's that like internal response. My whole body was just like, what was that sound? Like trying to figure out. It's like, I haven't heard that sound before. What was that? And especially by yourself. I mean, it was pitch black. I sat up in the dark. I walked in the second half. I walked into, my campsite in the dark, which is terrifying in of itself, just walking through the woods in a area that's, of course there are things that could hurt you. A pretty safe area, to be completely honest, but everything has its risks, and I don't know, your mind plays tricks on you and plays these games with you, and there takes some mental, I don't know, like stamina to keep up with some of the thoughts that are running through your head. But I think that in those moments you get to see your true self, and that's kind of why I brought it up, sitting and reflecting and thinking. And when it's boiled down to, man, like I'm focused on when my next meal is, because I had to plan that out and kind of be prepared for those types of things, making sure I was safe. And it's the simple pleasures of things you're finding where, man, I really enjoyed my coffee, sitting on a rock, watching the sun come up, drinking my coffee in the morning. Those simple luxuries of, man, you just go and turn on the sink at home and stick your cup underneath there and get a drink of water. But had to always make sure you had clean, filtered water. It's quite the process, And I don't know. It's just interesting to see how you respond and how you react, and mentally, I think, in your mind, how you react to those situations. And I think that those, again, are at the core of who we are. I think that those say a lot of who we are. When you're thinking about who am I, who am I, Shane McNeeley? Who is Shane? And what I don't know. How do we operate? Authenticity is something that's really important to me. And I think this goes along with who you are, being your authentic self. But that's easier said than done. And I think I just had this thought come, is being authentic a average of your responses to everything that you've gone through in life and your consistency within that? Is that your mean? This is the mean average, the mean of who I am. Is that being authentic? I don't know. I know that we all do it, I believe, and at least for myself, I can see myself or find myself in different situations, in different scenarios, being a different person and reacting and responding differently. And I think that that's interesting. I've been pushing and talking a lot about on the podcast of, doing good, making a difference, being positive and staying positive and helping the world around you and getting out. And man, I've found myself really challenging myself to do that more and more. And, I've talked about it since it started, CrazyFaceUNO, back in June of 2019. And it all started off with doing good and making a difference in our local and global community. And, it's ventured into everybody has a story and everybody's story matters. I don't think that output, the do good and make a difference has really changed. And I wanted to, inspire people to do good and to make a difference and to see the little things that they're doing in their life can have a positive impact. And, I've been challenged with that a little bit of kind of the, we've talked about it on the podcast before in the past, but the concept of this backhanded, look at me kind of thing, the humble brag, if you will, of when you start posting things about, look at what I've done, and, that makes me pause and think about that. And how do you inspire others to do things without showing them or giving people an example? It's just lip service of telling people to go do things, and then there's no accountability for actually making that happen. And it's not that you need to celebrate every single thing you've ever done that is good, right? It doesn't make you a better person. It's I don't know. There's times to celebrate, and there's a time and place for everything. And I think that doing good feels good. And I think that if you find yourself in that rut, you should give it a try. And you can be authentic in that, right? Be genuine. And I think that your intent in what you do is very important. I don't know. Just a lot of questions. There's not a lot of answers here today. We're about 34 minutes into this podcast, and you've heard me ramble for a while. Again, get excited. We are going to have a real formal CrazyFaceUNO Podcast drop next Tuesday. That is going to be Tuesday, I believe it is March, the first Tuesday in March. I think it's March 3rd, but don't hold me to that. And I haven't released her name, but now that we're 35 minutes in, I'll tell you her name. And if you listen this far, you can get excited about Anne Wang. She was nominated for a 30 Under 30, and she is amazing. She's a very incredible woman that's doing some amazing things. She's a co-founder of a company called Youre. She's locked in, a lot of money with that project, and she's doing some amazing things. And our conversation is one of my favorites for sure. And I've been saving it for a special occasion and just haven't had the opportunity to properly kind of post it and get it out there. But get excited. Anne Wang, her podcast that we recorded back in December of 2019. We're going to be releasing that on the first Tuesday of March. We're going to do two podcasts for this foreseeable future, and we'll see how that goes. Hey, while we're talking, if you're listening and you have an interest in, coming on the show and maybe consistently coming on the show, being a co-host, let me know. I'm exploring some different ideas and options and thoughts, possibilities, and we can maybe chat a little bit more. So if you're interested, give me a jingle, shoot me an email, comment, shoot me a DM. I don't know. There's 1,000 different ways. It's pretty easy to get in contact with me. So let me know. And if you're interested in being on the podcast, let me know as well. And we'll try to set something up. All right. Thank you all so very much. I really do appreciate you listening and tuning in to my 37 minutes of random thoughts. Love you. Appreciate you all out there. Check out crazyfaceuno.com. And if you're willing and able, please buy a mug. Again, it helps us continue to do what we're doing here at CrazyFaceUNO. And I would be ecstatic. So thank you again. Reach out to us. Give us a little shout out if you listen to this and there's something that stuck out to you. If you have any answers or thoughts to some of the ideas and things we talked about, love to hear it. All right, everybody. Peace.